And penguins, por favor. Did you take your pins back out?
It's not red.
Yeah. I'm gonna take them away. Taking those.
Do you need the timer?
See.
Do you need this one with the broken back? Okay, is everyone good?
Let's wait
I don't believe so.
a minute to open this. Okay, now good.
Okay. Oh, you're so shit. Might help.
Take it easy. We appreciate it.
Thanks, Raptor.
Good luck, Rick.
I will.
Thanks. You're freezing him, man. It's like the timeout before the kickoff. Or the field goal.
I have a story just for you. I bet you wonder who I am, where I come from, what's my plan. But there's one thing you should know. It does not matter what's my name, for we can play a little game. What about a round of chess? Then I will let you have a guess on who's the winner, who's to lose. Pre-decided, or you to choose? Is there a good guy and a bad between the white king and the black? Opposing kingdoms, that's a fact. The rest of you, my dear fools, are pawns following the rules. Soldiers in your christened name, defending an imaginary reign. My favorite time of the day is the morning. Beautiful the mornings are. I open the window and smell the fresh air, fill up my lungs until they burst like party balloons. Then I exhale, slowly and smoothly, and turn my attention to the beat of my heart. For once again, I realize that I'm alive. What a beautiful feeling alive is. I carefully shut the window, wet from the reborn June, and then I march towards my pristine bathroom. Absolute gleam and sparkle spread before my reborn eyes. I step into my alabaster shower, and I allow the steaming water to rinse away the remains of the dawn. Now, I am prepared for a new day, cleansed. Sometimes, I look at myself. Just so you know, I come from far, a territory of spit and tar. My rival has a request for those of you in a quest to find a purpose and a meaning. The ones that look for more than breeding want to recognize their face, to hear their voice, to know their place. And it's a question that has been throughout the centuries of being. Many have planted, no result. They try and seek as if it's their fault. They live, they die, through fire and thunder. They question, still a wonder. I wake up in the night. It's either the dreams or the fear. Fear of death. While I'm sinking in my silky sheets, the abyss swallows me. I'm falling in deep waters, but I never swim. I don't want to be saved, and this scares me the most. I stay still. I let go. I surrender. In this sweet evaporation, this is when I jump out of bed. Fast heartbeat, cold sweat, shivering. Other times, it's the dreams. I'm alone, naked, dancing in a field, an endless field. I cover a great distance. Miles and miles, lost in the frenzy of my dancing. On my hands, bracelets of ivy leaves. My hair is an unusual shade of gold. It's not me. At least, not the person I'm familiar with. I'm ecstatic. Sometimes, I look at myself. Am I here to solve the mystery, feeding you conceded victory? You mortals are, you mortal fool. My answer will be very cruel. The question you are asking, I answered once while I was husking a piece of fruit I found in an ancient forest on Crete. But I was caught. The only time, and shivers crawled down my spine. It was King Midas, foolish wretch. His human touch led me to twitch. He asked in impudence and unworthiness, what is human's greatest happiness? I stared into his coward eyes, his trembling hands, his knees, his thighs. I couldn't keep back. It would be rough, and so I break into a shrill laugh. Ha 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 ha! What's best for you is beyond your reach. Just throw yourself into a ditch. You should wish never to be born. You should wish quickly to be torn. The second best is to die soon. Pray for all that day noon. Within the body lies the will, hungry reality, no God to help. Source of desire that never ends, source of all suffering that condemns the human race to be in vain, existing only to feel pain. Sometimes feel it overwhelms me. Warm, thick, overflowing slowly, methodically from the pores of my skull, merging with my hair, descending on my temples and hugging gently my eyelashes. It covers my eyes. It shut. Brown viscous juice now targets my pupils and returns to my insides, slides in the eyelids, and bursts pompously in the avenues, veins and arteries, the essential streets. Mother, mother, remember me. Remember my name. Mother, look at me. Listen. Listen to my voice. I had fever, remember? You touched my burning forehead and said everything would be all right. Since then, I'm always in fever. I'm always crossing my chest 3 times before I go to sleep. I'm always knocking on wood when things go wrong. I never leave the closet open. It's bad luck. I never cut my nails after 8 o'clock. My family will die. Butterbeans are poisonous. They turn your blood to water. Sometimes I look at myself. The ancient Greeks learned the truth, however terribly uncouth. They had to find a way to bear, to hide the anguish and despair. So here comes in blinding light, the god of sun, of dream, of might. Reason and order are his ways. Noble beauty floods his gaze. His civilized nature is sworn, proportion, optimism born. Apollo his divine name, and moderation is his game. Fortified against the tether that disguise fatal error. The vital of human that lies within, ready to hit, to punch, to scream. In human psyche he is sealed, he can be muzzled or concealed. The wisdom needed to admit the human dark side is a gift. The Greeks had heard after a while, and so they called him full of rile. He brings his wine, his emphatic dance, fantasy and violence, intoxication, unreason, no appreciation. He loved the death, and so he feeds sensual body and its needs. In the name Dionysus he responds, carries along primitive bonds. Through him suffering is base, glorified, celebrated pace. His culture is one to ban the ways of civilized human. Count my fingers. They have 5 on each hand. Sometimes I have the sense that they are 7, maybe 9, and less often 3. I blink, keeping my eyes hooked on my palms. I blink once, there's still 7. I squeeze my eyes until my upper eyelashes blend with the lower, and then I open them wide, expecting a malady just to realize I count. There's 7. 7 fingers on the right hand, 7 fingers on the left. After a while, I get bored. I give up. I'm used to it now. It used to scare me, to freak me out. Not anymore, at least not as much. I forget to mention the nails, bellows, blood, love. As long as my fingers, all 7 of them, with those nails, I could hunt you down. I could rip you apart. I could suck on your spleen. I could hurt you piece by piece and leave you to rot in a non-existent place that no one would ever find, because you belong to my head. My beautiful, powerful, remorseful head. Sometimes I look at myself. I ask once and for all, the words I've spoken I recall. Is there a black king and a white with only one to win the fight? Or are they trapped inside your souls, playing around and swapping roles? In what you hear and what you see, you'll find your answers not from me. I'm just a satyr, not an oracle nor a prophet. It's up to you, my little mice, to shake like darts or roll the dice, expending glory what is scattered by Apollo. A gift without return cannot wait until tomorrow. Affirm the intimate expenditure of solar power. Dionysus has returned and all should cower. Stokel writes in 2007, expenditure without return is defined in opposition to the restrained economy, whose possibility it opens, but which it defies. There is a movement of communication, breaking the narrow limits of self-interest. You are only, you must, you know it, an explosion of energy. You can change it. The human being is the responsibility to spend in glory what is scattered by the sun. The tactics not only of resistance, but of an intimate burn-off, of an ecstatic movement out of oneself. If we are to think of communication in the post-fossil fuel era, it will be one of local incidents, of ruptures, physical feints, evasions, and expulsions, not of one of a higher goal or justification, a non-commitment subordination of expenditure. Expenditure, intimacy are functions of difference. It is Battalion ethics that battle rises the Marshall Plan over nuclear war. We can propose an ethics of bodily, tactical effort and loss. Expenditure is the determination of a social and energetic element that is not let outside itself to come to a higher good or utility. An insubordinate expenditure of the affirmation of a certain version of the post-human as an after effect. Beyond the closed economy and the personal, and beyond the social, the guarantor of the personal. Such a determination is not what will depend on in itself or in a definitive classification on a taxonomy that will guarantee the status of a certain act of a certain politics.
Okay, I'll do it now.
Alright, I want to ask about the last card that you read. So, most of this evidence, if I'm correct, is quoting Bataille, right?
No, it's quoting Stokel.
As Bataille puts it in Economy of the Scale of the Universe, quote, and then it starts with, you are an explosion of energy, you can't change it. Is that correct?
Yeah, there's a couple lines in it that are from
Bataille's community would continue the
Bataille's
tradition for arguing for communication is much more radical because it puts in the question human individuality, right? That's
Yeah.
part of your card?
Uh-huh.
It is a battalion ethics that valorizes the Marshall Plan over nuclear
You
war.
are very good at quoting this piece of evidence.
Awesome. Okay, so basically this evidence says, so an explosion of energy. Can you give me an example of what it would be to become an explosion of energy?
Things like the 1AC. I mean, it certainly takes a lot of energy, but we'd argue that
This building is an explosion of energy.
Okay, so when you say that you create an intimate burn-off and ecstatic movement out of oneself, right?
Mhm.
What does that have to do with the part of your evidence that talks about fossil fuels?
I mean,
Like, what's
it's
the connection
describing
between
what it would be
personal
post-
energy and fossil fuel energy?
I mean,
It indicates that the type of stockpiling of fossil fuel energy is how we engage in intimate burnout of the excess of life. It's how we make our daily tasks easier. The 1AC profits.
So
instant
why,
exposure as an
according to
alternative
the
effect.
tie, should we move to a post-fossil fuel era?
For intimacy.
Okay,
Just
can you
talk about-
explain that more than one word?
I mean, Bataille talks about how we should have an intimate expenditure of energy. We shouldn't use
Why doesn't
stockpiled
fossil
energy.
fuels count as an intimate
I
expenditure?
was
of
just
energy?
getting to that.
Okay, go ahead.
Stockpiled energy, things like fossil fuels, demand that we don't expend the energy, or rather that we don't have a relation to that expenditure of energy. Rather, it's just something we burn off
Why?
in order to
Okay,
get
so
energy.
your evidence that talks about the sun, how is that any different?
I'm sorry?
Why?
What?
Like, your evidence talks about the energy scattered by the sun. Why is it different whether we use coal or solar?
When he says solar, he means like the energy we gain
understand
from
that.
the food we eat. That is an intimate burn-off that is like, Bataille calls it the tool of the hand.
Okay, so let me just clarify one thing. You're not talking about solar power then.
No, we're definitely talking about solar power, just
Yeah.
a different kind.
You're not talking about photovoltaic cells.
Definitely not.
Okay, fair enough. Do you have anything else, Kevin? All right, peace on.
3 seconds, maybe.
It's already on the jump right? Hurry up.
30 seconds.
Please.
3, you said?
Yes.
Nice. That's choice or hostility.
I, for a second, was thinking about it. I feel like I should get extra credit.
I mean, you had 30 seconds of graphics. Just let that go.
Yeah.
Speech, one C for speaker. I like that flash drive.
I still need it.
Is anyone not ready? Okay, cool. First off is the great design, US great disabled now to blackouts, marquee, and walls in the town, the infrastructure resilient disability to reduce the magnitude, duration, disruption, consistent robustness, ability to absorb shock, continue operating sectors, making system use of energy, continue inflating risk on lane, redundant backup systems, innovative structures, and other methods to manage the copper solar. All the sectors have remarkable reliability, and the grid can't handle solar, causes blackouts, get solar. All left with solar insulation, giving maximum peak capacity, large problems are intermittency, as you have more to do with transition to power line, as too much electricity voltage levels to rise in substantial surge and treasure breakers that will shut off completely. The solar system can backfire and expect the power flow, making it even more difficult for power companies to adapt. Out of the incompatibility of some sector power plants, the power can be substantial, and blackouts cause accidental launch. EJ2K power failures could lead to extended blackouts and nuclear catastrophes, causing the accidental launch of nuclear vessels by 2K with certain accidental nuclear warhead extinction. Means one Russia could launch missile early warning system detect within 30 seconds, or accidental and we develop retaliatory restrictions that happen our nuclear war makes all of us next off. Is T interpretation of violation result means the M has to have a fiat plan defending instrumental implementation Webster's 98 result make clear certain clear up is to resolve a riddle, and substantial means material fiat in action. AHD 11 substantial having material true real or not imaginary, and federal government means the government of the United States of America. Valentine 95 the government of the USA, and restrictions or direct governmental limitations. Viterbo 12 to distinguish a restriction fund not to give relevant to effect and adopt a technical criteria for business on, but the distinct feature restriction is a direct governmental limitation in financial incentives or grants, loans, or insurance on TAD for types of incentives, financial grants, loans, or loan guarantees, insured with credit rental rates, financial incentive reduction on the tax rates, regulatory incentives, and reasons to prefer a vote or net benefit. One is our two interpretations, the limits decide when the act issues the topic and its agent, the next is less effective, the challenging aspects, anger. 77 agreed that the bill must be there when we limit the go, but the energy perceived the argument is something that's irresponsible, but it's not much of a war for excessive activity, irrelevant to the position, whether the nature and seed, not concerned, arguing with reasonably something was energies we disagree about the certain condition of interchange, and this internally linked to their pedagogy, the ability to contest the academics, improves both teams' knowledge of novel or participants who arrive at a decision about what the issue is prior to the start of the conversation. What happens, the participants fail to reach agreement about what they are arguing about. They talk past each other with little awareness of what the other is saying. Genuine agreement is not possible. It's hard to see how a productive conversation could ensue. I do not think this is just engagement always unfolds along the plane. However, participants cannot agree at the issue. That exchange will result in a productive outcome or diminish significantly with the goals of educational competitive plans. The starting point is urgent, and net benefit 2 is the ground to set. Incentivizes selecting apps with huge later strategic bias is uniquely worse without the topic as actor is a negative fallback. And net benefit 3 is our lesson plan to set, presenting arcs as efforts from learning them, and scholars question the link between stating arcs and learning their content. Don't underestimate the importance of how we learn. Has 99 most excellent instructors go beyond your presentation materials for promotion of active learning, like Rodney Dangerfield, class planning confidence to respect, class planning when we do effective teaching and better quality of learning for the students, and Pepsi challenge. They cannot prove that their lesson plans work. Our lesson plan of state-based roleplay Fiat succeeds in teaching this content. This card compares to other lesson plan peppermint. 5. A project called Conflict aims to create a course their character play and a game-like system for making decisions to build empower students or willingly indicate their experiences or engaging in the way students are contrasted sharply with a heavily held assumption about curriculum. Student play conservative center, liberal narrative, political simulation, give classmates purpose to evidence, learn leadership skills, and think through the outcome of the American political system. These approaches knock out and challenge critical theories. Advocates have to see their conventional power structure, the government critical theories. It doesn't help figure out what to do with revealing orthodoxy has been cut out. Rejection of the status quo can become critical orthodoxy. Those who emphasize proper description, creative or just power, and our evidence is from ed scholars prefer that it's the best way to transition content into learning. Hot 9. 8. I did not possess the training necessary to be successful for academic burden, more many training had to be literary during many studies. I was able to analyze these policies in the DCN. I did not have knowledge of the curriculum of background education, working from education in the classroom. I was now researching the curriculum knowledge in the classroom. I was also becoming a scholar. We think of this collection as we put into skills. Practice as a scholar and educator and tied to the topic as an influencer aggressive anything could be tangentially related to this topic. The resolution is the only predictable source of grant. Next off is the word pick. We endorse the entire 1AC except the phrase human race. Human should be spelled with a Y instead of an A. The counterplay commutes and suffers A for human and replaces it with a Y. And this reference to human makes all women a subsidiarity men using Y as key to challenge women patriarchy. Mallory, by the decision of privilege of fulfilling women instead of women is enacted by feminists who draw attention away from challenging linguistic convention to make women a subsidiary of men, and they don't have a plan, which means that they can't make competition arguments now. Case, yes, Patai gives a gift, and it's the crappy one from your Aunt Sally. His gift is an emancipate and solely services evil. Their author Steckel 90. Patai leaves himself open to fascism because he already smelled the strength of massive capital, the device attempting to pull out when irrationalism is in the service that good only causes the camp of his enemies, even though Battalion maybe will be the totem of the structure we can easily see in the adaptable coherence is repressive and their thrill seeker turn A, their try or die trick is backwards. Things are hopeless now, and Battai's ecstasy thrill seeks us to death. Johnson 3. Battalion affirms the living moment. The moment is ruinous. The ecstatic moment is over, and the flash neither tends toward death or leads directly to death. The extreme indifference evidence of ecstasy and question survival. Death is of little importance compared to pleasurable duration. Enjoyed by Battalion is almost entirely death-oriented. Foolhardy ruination will end in death. The spirit of the affirming life can be accessed only if they open themselves up to death, where the vision of life is dominated by death. Battalion is savoring the taste of death in a poetic fashion. He concedes it. An individual cannot know that death is wiped out in a single stroke. B. His reasoning justifies mass atrocity and death. Bolt irons. 2K. In the name of what authority might be justifying fascination and pleasure, exposure, and death outside the limits of acceptable practice and approach endorsed by Battalion to place within framework acts of torture and murder for excitability or arousal similar to intensifying fury of a resolution or impulses, to gain value with something for the death atrocity would be the pain required and are no value to living. Turn A. Battalion wildly inflates the value of ecstasy and tempting death, and doing so decreases the value of living. Johnson 3. Life is serious and is left is open for power phenomenon that the type of sin is promoted is one by drawing up the death is the love is one whose power is still playing with the dubious pleasure. Death is life is irrelevant. Death may provide the escape from life is equal to pleasure, but death is irrelevant importance and the end of time of the game is not produced when the death has absolutely no importance for the being. Not contrary to Battali's view of death and trying to make a political game out of death. We can see death is a real, non-negotiable phenomenon. B. Battali's starting point is so obsessed with finding meaning for death that he becomes death obsessed. Battalion is not no value to life, he's no value to living. Johnson 3. For Battalion to live to the while evading Battalion in time must not live the same existential something that will be invisible to see a life from life sentence to see a life through the eyes of the dead. It is time to drop the first being seen for last week after this week. Begin to observe the life circle pages point of living. See the title overestimate the value of death so the living being the ultimate maxed out lifetime experience. And Johnson 3. This verse supposed to protect the ties assumption that means in the middle of the first paradox of the entire representing the importance of death. I have over lifetime and ongoing experience and art whose ecstasy turn two pieces of links first Battalion likes Johnson 3. Battalion which makes the liberating the original life story is not authentic to the version of the project will go wrong. The wood look periods of pain slavery protect for every minute by any sense of duration. Battalion saw politically neutrally and acclamation of real time could be politically progressive. Second is there fascism linked irrespective of politics. Battalions worldview necessarily this business to protect the darkness of the far right rolling. 6. Battalions perceive the differences between political life and democratic society. Skipping first because it becomes a little surprising. Battalion glorifies fascism to number 2 or 3 opposed to democratic facilities who have the different countries homogenous society. Mussolini and Hitler stand it as something other. He seems there are antagonism to the law. The fact that they were broken only most obvious is that heterogeneous nature of the fascist nation. Battalion concludes with the following: heterogeneous fashion acts beliefs to higher forms, and that's key to check the worst violence. Small 6, how should we equip again people to face the challenges that are required with faction confronting forming and resources, crime syndicates, and will require solidarity, consistent defense of the spirit. We have two choices: work together and solidarity, encouraging alienation, civic engagement, evil agents, and the cave instructing forever keep become challenging the government. Its potential for positive change, and Bataille's premise of inevitable extinction is just wrong. Johnson. 3, it's difficult to see time is running headlong towards the enemy of us. Imagine time is to move through a tangled matter to space to get 20, and time is not cut through space. And simply like a magic knife without a net. Why should they be all time for the sun? It's hard to see how they can be authentically described as civic for these things. The philosophical act of manipulating the time from the point of view of the manipulation of all occurrences the earth to the most extreme degree. And besides ecstasy and sun from them, their promise to turn themselves, we can have a lifetime of ecstasy if we aren't ruined as Johnson. 3, for battalion, we define the moment is inglorious, holding back with the sun, however, refusing to generate energies ecstatic that can be broken, at least for a while, like the circumstance with their baptized, can be unleashed or spontaneous. With bataille, time is with a ruinous ecstatic moment, there is no reason why a spontaneous burst of energy cannot have duration. Bataille is not an affirmation representing more materiality that for him leads defensively towards us and promptly towards inevitability. The great moment of pleasure with which Bataille celebrates has no effect on reality, but can imagine the soul of weekend. Alternatively, imagine a joy is excessive, acceptable, but not what John will relentlessly find her. For Bataille, expenditure is perversely destructive beyond the responding of energies, takes such explosive, locally destructive movement, not sure form it. Bataille's arguments about energy and the sun are a cop-out. We can strive and be positively succeed. Not every one of our claims is secretly backwards. Johnson. 3. For Bataille, living things have